Yeah, so Labra, what happened with the thing, man?
and then the turkey just started to.
So what did you do? So what did you do?
Ask Pedro. He wasn't there.
Pedro, you want to tell us what happened?
Remind me what we're talking about.
The turkey.
I'm dumb now.
Which option? I'll be right back.
I thought it was a swan you were having relations with.
You had relations with this animal?
Well, I mean,
looking at
I'm
the
not
avatar guy.
not trying to get canceled off of YouTube. Just trying to figure out what Labra was doing with the swan. I don't know. Did you see the picture he's got?
I do. I can see this now. How do I make the views so that it's bigger?
Did you start it?
Guy.
Fuck yeah, we're live.
We're
live.
What?
Oh,
Hey!
change the
what
avatar.
happened?
Jesus.
Welcome everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Meme Factory
And
podcast.
that wasn't planned.
We've got Guy Swann with us tonight. Man who needs no introduction, even though we're introducing him anyway. Guy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself for anybody in the audience who may not know who you are?
Sure. I am the guy who's read more about Bitcoin than anybody else you know. And that shit's true. I done read some stuff about Bitcoin. I've been doing that for a long fucking time on a little podcast called Bitcoin Audible. And from time to time we do an episode of Shitcoin Insider as well because it's fun and everybody wants to. Hey, you gotta dabble in. You gotta play in the shitcoin. Just a little bit.
You gotta have some fun.
Yeah, that's what I do. I do that, and I post a bunch of angry libertarian stuff on Twitter sometimes.
That you certainly do. All right, now, Guy, you did say you hadn't watched the stream before, and that's fine. We forgive you for that, but we do need to get you up to speed on.
I heard it was really, really bad. And
It is.
So I just took it off my list of things.
It's terrible. It's not good. Part of the reason it's not good is that we don't have sponsors. So part of the reason
they really do up the game.
So part of the reason and part of the way we were able to fund this adventure is that we have interesting sponsors that only pay to be advertised on the show if the guest reads the ad copy. I have sent you via DM a copy of the ad. If you wouldn't mind rolling.
Are we starting here? We're starting right now.
Oh,
okay.
absolutely.
I'm reading an ad.
It's cold to
right
read.
This moment.
It's cold to read.
All right.
Then anybody you know.
Bitcoin Audible read 581. Hi, my name is Guy Swann, avid reader of all things Bitcoin and your average meme enjoyer. You know what really grinds my gears? People moving around freely between cities and states in their own country. First off, this is our country. We have proven time and time again that people are incapable of making intelligent decisions for themselves about where to go, when and where they can eat, how they can spend their money, and with whom they can socialize. Centrally planned democratic socialism is the only way to ensure equity of outcomes for all. And it's time we started to get serious about regulation of movement and spending habits to guarantee the safety, security, environment, and future of all people on the planet. To this end, I am endorsing my favorite company, TrackBase. TrackBase is the only company that makes an ID recognized around the world so that government agencies can have a single standard and database to use when kicking folks out of hospitals, restaurants, or enforcing movement bans on citizens whose credit or social scores might connect them with terrorist activity. Their primary product, the Overreach ID, can be used as your debit and credit card, driver's license, and passport. To get a free download of me reading the terms and conditions, head over to guyswan.com and use the promo code Lebensraum. Also available on compact cassette.
Hey!
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We're getting
I
paid
sold
now.
out pretty hard on that one. TrackBase. Track
We-
based is a tough
We each
sponsor,
get like
man.
8 sats from that, so we appreciate it.
It makes the show
Oh.
run. Really,
Well, that's worth it. That's worth it.
You went all in.
he did. He gave us the full treatment.
That equality of outcome that you referred to means death. I think that's what history shows us.
Yeah, death.
Well, you
Yeah.
know, track base is they have high goals. You know, track base is where it's at.
Shallow graves.
Everybody dies together.
All right, you want to start? You want to start heavy? You want to start light? What do you think?
Let's start light. We've got a question in the chat from Susie.
Okay.
Guy, if who would you want to narrate your audiobook?
Oh, I'm gonna narrate my audiobook. Unless I'm dead. Then okay, for the sake of the question, what? Damn, that's a tough one. I don't know.
Pedro's got a good voice.
Foss.
I'll do it.
Already's got it.
I can do
Only
it. I'm
while he
dyslexic.
has COVID, though. The guy who does the this is too honest of an answer, but the guy who does the Dresden Files series is a very good narrator.
What's his name?
And I'm kind of picky about my
Bob Saget.
Warster James something. Hold on a second.
Bond.
No, fuck off. No, don't download. Yes, cancel. It's off. James Marsters. James Marsters. He's a good narrator. I'd like him to do the audiobook.
Okay.
When's it coming out, guy?
I don't know. I got about 60 pages, and I slowly work on it from time to time. It's coming together. When is it done? I don't know.
So
It'll never be done.
So what are you working out on right now? And I want you to disclose like the meme too, like if you're working in a meme.
If I'm working on
Epic.
a meme,
One of those epic
oh.
ones, yeah.
I'm working on. I'm trying to figure out what my next big one is going to be. I'm working on one kind of silly little office meme. That's just kind of. I found out a Bitbox has a screensaver on it when I left it plugged in one day. While I was just fucking around doing stuff, and like a little screensaver popped up, and I was like, "Oh shit!" So I have a little office meme that I'm doing. But the next big one, I've got a couple that I've been arguing with myself against, and I've got all the clips and stuff ready. I might just do them all at some point, but there's a really good one from the Incredible Hulk that I want to do, and then there's another one from it's another Lord of the Rings one, and then there's a Matrix one that I feel like is a really missed opportunity. There's a really good one in the Matrix that I feel like people should be doing, but nobody does. They just kind of do like the iconic Matrix one, like the.
I'm doing that actually.
You're doing the iconic Matrix one, or are you
No,
stealing
no.
mine
The-
that nobody else is doing?
I think you're referring the new trailer.
No, not the new trailer.
No,
Okay.
he's saying there's a hidden gem.
It's the original Matrix. It's
in
from the original Matrix.
that we haven't mined yet.
Oh. Don't tell Greg too much. He might go ahead and steal your meme idea.
I give no details. Okay, no details ahead of time. You just know, like, okay, it might be a Matrix one.
Okay, might be.
Watching your memes, sometimes I feel like I'm the Piñata farm memer.
Yes.
He's basically saying that yours are super high quality and they're very high quality.
I think you got it.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Yellow.
Guy, what he's
I
trying
don't-
to say
I don't
is
know,
that
maybe
your
he
memes are
didn't
really
understand
high quality.
Maybe Guy doesn't watch the Piñata Farms vids. I don't know.
They're everywhere.
I see them from time to time. What are you talking about? Like they're all over.
They're pervasive.
And I have to.
They're like
I don't
like a
want to
disease.
see it
They're
like
like
too
COVID.
much, like, but I do understand. Like it's some of them are very very funny, man. Like I laugh with some of them.
man, that Lord of the Rings meme. Jesus, that took me like 5 months.
So
I was
good,
working
though.
like an hour or two every night. The one part that, And I told myself I wasn't going to do this, but it was so important to get this shot of like the Balrog jumping up out of the thing. But when everybody's like running across the screen, I had to rotoscope out every single character so that the text was like behind the next character. And there's like fucking 9 people in the fellowship, you know? So like I had to do like each one of them staggered. Like that one clip in After Effects, and I had never used After Effects before. And I had been meaning to like finally like dive into it. So like I'm watching hour-long tutorial videos at the same time that I'm doing this, which is slows everything. Is just like walking through molasses, you know? And and it was so painful, but I was like, I can't like just like cut this shot out. It's important for me to like get it to this point. And I was like, fuck, I'm gonna have to rotoscope every stupid arm and fucking Boromir's shield that's like flying around on his back. I was so pissed.
The realization when you're making a video meme that like a 3-second scene is gonna take you 2 hours is the worst.
And then you just start doing your math, and it's like this video is 2 minutes and 28 seconds. That means I'll be done when I'm 50 years old.
I think about Greg like watching a video like that, and then that South Park episode where they're like they took our jobs. Like that's what Greg's thinking about.
I was like, that motherfucker. It's so much better. But yeah, then he told me it took him 5 months, and I was like, well. He's not gonna be killing me every week.
I'll say it's my first time with After Effects. You know, maybe I can knock that down to like a month for this coming one. You know, and then break it down to 2 weeks. I'll have like my templates and just like shit ready to drop in. The thing I'm most proud about is the lightning. I'm not sure if you watch that video again. Watch the lightning, because there's no lightning in the actual video, and like my wife and sister didn't even remember that or whatever. It's like, man, bitch, I worked really hard on that lightning. Notice the lightning. But yeah.
So you spent like 5 months on it, and then what's the point that you think, okay, now I'm going to drop it? Was it when it was done, or did you have a different?
So I did film in school, and I decided that there is no point when you're done with a project. Like there's no point where I'm like done editing. I'm just so fucking fed up with working on it. And the next thing that I think could improve it is a small enough improvement with a large enough amount of work that I'm like, nope, I'm done. Print and just done. Like, so I really don't feel like there's at least in my experience, there's no conclusion to a film project. It's just when you're so sick of, unless you give yourself a deadline, you know, you say, oh, I'm going to release it on this day. But otherwise, there's always something you could do. There's always something you can make it a little bit better.
You sound like George Lucas.
Do I? Does George Lucas say that?
Oh, yeah. He couldn't stop. He couldn't stop fucking around with Star Wars. So are we going to get like a Phantom Menace version of the Balrog meme?
Are you going to say he's going to produce
a director's cut?
A director's cut.
Are you gonna say
it may have been the first cut, but
he's gonna produce like his version of Jar Jar Binks shortly?
Exactly.
Oh God, no.
You know, it sounds more like you said, like it's never done. It sounds more like strike in Europe.
Notice how now, like after so many times, he laughs at his own joke and nobody laughs.
You gotta laugh. You gotta laugh before everyone else does. That's key.
God damn you!
You gotta be the first to laugh. You gotta, you gotta race.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious. I was getting this question for you on Twitter a lot today. How many swans do you think you've murdered at this point?
Oh God.
And did you get any geese in there?
At least 112. At least. And I'm sure there are a few geese. I don't really, like, after they die, I just leave them there, you know? So, like, I don't really gotta go investigate. Like maybe it's a swan.
Okay.
But, you know, and I'm sure there's some geese in there. You know, I'm not perfect.
I can appreciate that. And, you know, speaking of not being perfect, you know, I appreciate that you're killing swans and geese, honestly. I can't stand them. I don't like them. They're annoying. Labra, you can't put Labra in a room with him. You see what he does with him. But on the subject of
Kind of weird.
on the subject of being a good member of society, I know you've been talking about that recently and the narratives surrounding being a good member of society. I was hoping you might be able to expand on your thoughts on that a little bit.
Oh, Jesus. Are we talking about killing swans, or are we talking about COVID and vaccines?
We're talking about being a good member of society and what
Minding
that
your
means
own-
to you and how that narrative is also being driven today.
Minding your own damn business. That is what it means to be a good member of society. Respecting someone else as a human being who has their own choices, their own issues, their own risks, their own problems, and leaving them the fuck alone. And if you disagree, just disagree and get the fuck over it. Grow up. We're adults. Disagree and walk away. But if you become like a violent, petulant child who beats everyone over the head every time that they don't make the choice that you expect them to, that makes you a bad member of society. That makes you a destroyer of society. And we have a lot of that going around.
Like what?
Jesus Christ. The mandates, the it's almost painful to even say, like, the internment camps, like in Australia. Like three kids. One of them was like 13. It's like 13, 14, and 17 or something like that, were their ages. Escaped. Like, literally escaping the Australian internment camps. And they put up roadblocks. They started searching everybody's cars, looking for these kids. After they found them, they all tested negative for COVID. And they're back in the internment camp for punishment for leaving the fucking internment camp. Like, I just, God bless it. I don't, like, it seems like a really bad movie script, what we're going through right now. Like, what's happening in the world. It just doesn't seem to make sense. None of it computes to me. And there's no logic. There's no sound logic behind any of it. I don't know. Don't get me. Why'd you fucking bring this up? Why'd you bring this up? You know I was gonna get like ridiculous.
No, it's a good topic. Like the crazy part. It's not that the crazy part is that the governments are doing it. It's that like so many people are falling in line and not making noise about it. I mean, not just not making noise. They're like advocating for what's happening. That's the crazy part.
Yeah. And I think it's because, you know, we're kind of in this weird, and maybe this is like the normal state of things. Maybe people are like this, but I really kind of think this is taught. Like, this is learned behavior. Particularly if you just look at like government schooling and how we're taught to listen, like just trust whatever the authority says. Like, you don't question anything. Nothing in school is discovery. Nothing in school is really learning. It's memorizing what you are dictated. And one of the biggest goals of school is to make sure you can get people to stand in line, do what they're told, and not question what the quote-unquote truth is. And everybody is led to believe that there's just a textbook that you go to that has all the answers. And that I talk to normal fucking people who are like grew up with me, and they think there's nothing left to discover. They think that like just all the answers are there. That they have like no hope and no passion for, like, normies are awful. Like they're so sad. And I just like get so depressed when I like go talk to normies. And I'm like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, this is the most exciting time to be alive ever in the history of the world. There is a literal ocean of information and knowledge available to us. And there are like, truthfully, there are more things to discover today and explore today than there ever have been in the history of the world, because technology enables us to explore more and further than we ever have before. The scope of what we could even think about trying to figure out is 1,000,000 times bigger today than it was a fucking 150 years ago.
Less than that.
Not only do we not have zero things to discover. We have everything to discover, everything to explore. And there's just people who are just like, oh no, I don't know, you just look it up in textbook and you get a job. Get a job with the government and have a good pension plan. And I don't know. It's just, I think there's a degree of learned of obedience, of forced obedience, this beating it into us that we just do what we're told and we listen to the person who has the answers and they are the expert. And then we get roped into this system and we forget how to put up boundaries. We forget how to say no to people. You know, like we just like kind of blindly accept those things around us. Like people start like encroaching on us. And I think there's so many like personal problems where people are just like, oh, I'm in an awful situation and my job sucks and my relationship sucks. And all of it was just because like they went forward in their relationship instead of saying no when it wasn't working. Because they were like, oh, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It's like, so you're going to fuck your whole life up just because you don't want to say no to your parents about doing this degree or going to college or marrying this person? Like you're going to marry somebody to fix your relationship? You know, like this is common. This is like, I see this all the time when I talk to people. And it just baffles me. Like people just don't have any boundaries. They're just reactions to the world. They're not people, you know, like they've just let themselves become this thing that the world beats on. And then they identify and figure out who they are. They identify with what they're a victim of, with what hurt them and what their biggest pain is, rather than their hopes, rather than what they care about, rather than any sort of meaning in life or a goal to accomplish something in the next 10 or 20 years. It's just like, oh, I don't know. I'm just a victim of X. Like who goes through life thinking that they're just a response to some bad thing that happened?
Have you read Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning?
Frankl? No, I don't know that one.
So Frankl was a
sounds familiar.
Prisoner of war. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning, and in that book, he says that. I mean, you're talking about this stimulus and response, right? Mm-hmm. And how the unthinking masses just go along, and that there's very little thought and what have you today. And he talks in that book, you know, he went to the depths of the human spirit, you know, as far as it can go. And he was talking about how humans in an ideal environment differ significantly from the likes of, say, a sunflower, which only has the means to respond. It doesn't have the means to think or take, you know, definitive, decisive action of its own. It doesn't have volition or agency, right? So the sunlight is the stimulus. The sunflower moves towards it during the course of a day without thinking. It just responds. He says that the difference with humans is that we have in between the stimulus and the response a space. And in that space lies our freedom. That's the quote. And I think where we've got to now is
quote.
He stole that from Sisyphus.
Good quote.
The gap has been so heavily, so significantly narrow. Sorry, Greg, I didn't mean to cut across you there, mate. Trying to get this out. Yeah, and it's incredible to see. And I want to know if I can ask how did you kind of fall down this rabbit hole around institutional schooling? Because not everybody does, right? Because most of us are products of it. And like, you know, the fish in the water, you don't see the water. So how did you fall into that? Was it like John Taylor Gatto, John Holt, Neil Postman? Who did you get, you know, an alternative view on this, or did you just kind of happen on it on your own?
How did you ponder your pond?
I'll tell you, there's no like explicit thing that I think took me down that path. Probably the first time that like I was really good in school. I was really good tester, you know, smart. I could memorize a bunch of shit. I still remember in fourth grade, fifth grade. No, it was sixth grade. It was sixth grade. We had to memorize prepositions for a test, and if we memorized like a certain number, we would get 100, and then if we could get the rest, if we could find any other any other prepositions in the English language, we could get extra credit. And I made a 212 on the test because I just like looked up all the prepositions and memorized all of them. I can still recall it all today. The whole list. I mean, if you want me to, I can. But there was a point that like the pressure of school started to just weigh on me, because I thought this was everything. I got to make sure I always get 100. You know, always get like, and when I made a 83, I would get pissed, like just like really upset when something didn't go right. And I was even used to like saving like a paper or something to the last minute and still making like an A+ on it. And I was like, yeah, this is great. You know, like so I thought this was this thing that I was good at, and this was going to determine who I was in the future. And in high school, I guess it was my maybe first semester of my senior year, I was in AP biology, and I was basically in the running for valedictorian. And I was like, okay. And it was like, everything was like stressing me out. And my biology teacher, I ended up making like a 78 on a test. And I can't even remember why. I can't remember what the situation was, but it was something that like felt out of my control at the time. And I was furious. I was crying. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, like I'm not gonna be valedictorian at my high school. And my biology teacher, who is just a straight cool ass guy, just solid dude, and kind of has that like loose feeling about life. You know, I'm just kind of like going about my life. And I was always learning things that had nothing to do with biology class from this teacher. And he sat me down because I was like starting to get upset. And he was like, you know how many times somebody has asked me what my grades were in high school when I was looking for a job or trying to accomplish something in life? I was like, no, I don't know. He's like, never. Like right now, this feels like the center of your world. This feels like everything that's important. But the second you get out of here, nobody gives a shit. And we kind of just like had this like 20, 30 minute like heart to heart there. And I was just like, it was like this revelation. I was like, I can't think of anything that I know of outside of school in which that is true. Like he's speaking the truth, you know, like this is not going to be like, I'm not going to put this on my resume. I mean, like, yeah, I could put that I'm valedictorian of X high school on my resume, but nobody's going to give a shit if I can't do the job or if I don't have like real experience here. Nobody cares that I did high school good. And like, it was just like, I was suddenly coming to that realization, and I ended up coming like quote unquote fourth in school or whatever. But I don't know, like it was like the pressure had gotten to a point where I was just like, oh, this is so great that I can just let this go. And so I just kind of breezed through the rest of senior year. And then I was furious at college because I thought college was that place where you go to learn what you wanted to learn. And then I found out it was just high school 2.0 for 2 years, and I couldn't even take film classes. I was furious. I almost dropped out my freshman year. In fact, there was a class, freshman seminar class, some stupid required class. Is the most bullshit thing I've ever. I didn't even know what it meant to spend $3,000 on a class, but it was the most bullshit waste of time I've ever spent on it in my entire life. And our class grade was a journal that we were supposed to do every single week. And come to the end of the class, I'd never done any journals. And I proceeded to write 3 full pages about why this class was an unbelievable waste of my time and my money, and how pissed I was that I got here and I couldn't even take film courses, and that in some weird world I was paying for this. I didn't know what that meant at the time, but I knew that there was a consequence to this as opposed to high school. And so I wrote this like 3-page paper. And I even said in the thing, like, and I don't mean anything to you, like the professor or whatever, because I'm inclined to think that you think this is bullshit too. It feels like a bullshit class. And he gave me 100. So, yeah, like that was like really, so it was like my senior year and freshman year that I was just kind of like stepping away from this and like looking at this in a new light and wondering what the hell our education system even was really. And it just kind of started from there, and then it steamrolled through college. I finally started taking film classes, but which I loved. I love film school, but yeah, and then I was libertarianism. It was Tom Woods. It was School Sucks podcast. It was
Brett economics. Brett, what was it? School Sucks. I can't remember the Brett Venot.
Yeah,
Brett Venot. That's it. Yeah, brilliant. Yeah.
No, yeah, that was great. I listened to that thing for years.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
cool, man.
That's the very long story of how I got sick of school.
Yeah. I think a lot of kids that go through that process figure out that something's wrong with it, but can't quite put the finger on it. But yeah, if you dig in, there's a hell of a lot of people who've done some outstanding work on how it's been designed to not be an education system. Actually, it's designed to be a schooling system.
It's supposed to create good soldiers. I mean, it's
exactly.
literally a copy pasta of the Prussian school system.
Exactly.
Whose explicit goal was not to educate. Its explicit goal was to make soldiers who would die on the fucking field rather than run away.
Run towards gunfire instead of running away from it.
Yeah.
Exactly, for arbitrary reasons. Yeah.
I think we all have experienced some kind of story like that.
Yeah, especially the meme factory. Without a doubt, this is nothing but people who hated that shit.
What you're saying is impressions of people who...
Oh, fuck yes, I did.
Hated it.
This is like the cream of the crop.
It's a revelation. Everybody here.
Whoops, I'm muted. So what the hell have you guys been up to? What shows have I missed? Which one should I watch? To start off with.
These are all test streams, by the way.
Yeah, they're all test streams.
Oh, okay. So none of them actually exist anywhere.
You're in the middle of a test stream right now.
Yeah, I got you.
I really enjoyed David Bennett.
David Bennett.
He was different.
Different how? Different.
David Bennett is a different dude.
He's a different
first
dude.
of all.
Yeah, he is.
And
in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way.
Send me a link to that. Greg,
he talked about regenerative agriculture.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
regenerative ag.
Gotcha.
He also talked a lot about higher education, how it's kind of getting hijacked, but and he intertwines it all with Bitcoin. It's really cool. He's
nice.
He's an interesting cat. If you don't know his podcast, it's Bitcoin and is the name of the podcast.
Yeah, we had Alex Gladstein on. That was really good too.
That was awesome. I think
Gladstein is always like iconic. That man is a machine. He works overtime for Bitcoin. Seriously.
Interesting to hear him pitching Panopticip. I didn't think he'd read that.
Well, his other option was a little worse.
Yeah.
I've forgotten about that.
Did you give him a choice?
Yes.
No. We sent him the milder of the two ad reads. We voted on that one. We didn't vote on yours. We just fed
but
you
Greg
yours.
sent it in during the stream. He gave him a sneak preview during the stream as well.
Nice.
So if you want to read it, he was like, no, I can't read that.
I can't do that. I can't be on record saying these things.
Exactly. Yeah. I have to go to China. That's not. It's not okay.
Oh God, it was bad. It was bad.
If it's a really good joke, which would be the point, I might not come back from China.
Yeah.
All right, guy. I got one that's gonna get you rambling. Unless
good.
you sound like Sean had something.
I did have something more, it's kind of switching up gears towards Bitcoin. Uh, Obviously, no one's read more about Bitcoin than you,
That is
and
true.
that is
very
true. And I love hearing that. Every time I'm just like driving in my car late at night, I'm like, okay, I'm going Bitcoin Audible. This is the one. And that's actually serious.
What are you doing driving at night alone?
Listen to Bitcoin Audible. That's what he's doing.
Yeah, you gotta have an excuse to listen to Bitcoin Audible.
I can get out of the fucking house and go somewhere and listen to Bitcoin Audible.
Yeah. People are bothering me in my house right now, so I gotta get out. No, so there's a lot of people talking about the new Bitcoin bond from El Salvador, and I'm not sure if you've been able to take a look at that, or if you've listened to Preston Pish talk to Samson Mao and to Adam Back. I just listened to that today.
I've got that one in my list.
Yeah,
I got that one in my list, but I haven't really dug into it yet.
Well, even just kind of off your first, whatever you've been thinking about it, I'm sure you've thought about the Bitcoin bond. To me, it seems like, we always say like, okay, Bitcoin is disrupting this, it's disrupting that. People have been saying, oh, Bitcoin is going to be the new bond. And to me, it almost seems like Bitcoin's like replacing, it's like making the bond market like a second layer of Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. If you know what I'm saying, like if you're starting to have these bonds 100%. That are
no, I agree with this. Greg is shaking his head no.
Yeah, I'm shaking my head no.
We'll talk. We'll get there.
Okay. Yeah, and so I just kind of want to know what your thoughts were, because you have the Lightning Network, which is a second layer, but it almost seems like the bond market, if you get to this point where every bond is backed by Bitcoin or many bonds are backed by Bitcoin, then it's almost like a second layer of Bitcoin. I'm not sure what your thoughts are on that, or your thoughts are on...
I want to know why Greg is shaking his head no.
He's contrarian.
How's it? Yes, but also...
No, in the context of financial layers, any sort of derivative is a second layer. No, it's not like a second layer to the Bitcoin network in the context that like it's a Bitcoin smart contract, because it's a legal contract. It's just a bond.
That makes sense.
It's no different as a bond.
However, right? So Bitcoin is the base of the new economic system.
Yeah.
As the bond market is kind of the base of the current economic system. You could argue it's gold, but I mean, I don't know.
It's not gold anymore. It's not gold anymore. It's bonds. Right. Bonds are the reserve.
They're the risk-free rate.
They replaced gold.
Yeah.
Bonds used to be a second layer for gold.
Right.
They used to be promises to pay gold. Then the credit became the money itself, and gold was demonetized. And we're just kind of continuing to witness the ongoing demonetization of that. But yes, I agree with that.
The corpses on puppet strings. Yeah.
Yep.
No, they're. Can you even call it the bond market anymore if it gets transformed into a Bitcoin bond market? Yes, they're derivatives of Bitcoin, but it's not a second layer.
Well, it's still technically a bond.
Right.
And in the context of like, I'm kind of going back to like Nick Bhattia's layered money like framework.
Yep.
Is that a second layer does not have to be a custodian is a second layer. A Cash App, a Strike is a second layer. Lightning is a decentralized, hold your own keys, a sovereign second layer if you're using it directly. A custodian is a centralized custodial second layer, right? But still it is a second layer. It's the ability to, it is creating a Bitcoin derivative that you can do other things with. In that context, a Bitcoin-backed bond, I feel like constitutes a second layer. Because Bitcoin is actually replacing the base layer of money. We don't really have a base layer of money. We have a base layer of credit, which the credit is a promise to pay somebody else's credit. Like it's circular bullshit
with credit, and
we're missing the underlying money. And so Bitcoin is the resurgence of the potential of a resurgence of that underlying money, of an actual foundation for credit to say whether or not this person is actually creditworthy. This person's not creditworthy because they're the ones who can write their fucking name on a piece of paper and put 1,000, just write a number in the corner and now we'll accept it as valuable. Their credit is worthy because they can redeem something of value. And that is what that's a Bitcoin bond. My issue with El Salvador and Bukele, and maybe, Bukele is a boss on Twitter, so he knows how to play the social game. But I increasingly have reservations about all of this stuff. And maybe it's just because, like, over my years, my trust in politicians, like, the chart looks like if you just took the Bitcoin chart and you flipped it upside down, it just like goes down and down and down.
Dollar purchasing power chart.
And I'm exactly. And I'm increasingly worried about attaching ourselves to anything in politics as something as defining of Bitcoin. And El Salvador feels like this thing that El Salvador's fate right now and Bukele's choices hinge a lot of importance on Bitcoin. Kind of feels like, and it's not all of it, like the whole thing could go up in flames and it wouldn't be the end of the world for Bitcoin. Bitcoin would survive. It does. It's done this multiple times. But it kind of feels a little bit like a Mt. Gox situation where we're hanging a lot of the culture on the success. Like if Bukele goes straight dictator, we're going to look like asshats. You know what I mean? And Bitcoin could very well still be a major player in minimizing the damage done by somebody in that situation.
I don't get
like
what kind of negative impact to Bitcoin you're seeing for if Bukele goes full dictator.
I'm talking about in the context of the culture and the social wave. The price is a response to the acceptance and the appearance of Bitcoin as valid, I guess you could say, or as legitimate. And Mt. Gox was essentially this moment where, Bitcoin is dead. It got hacked. Like the big thing that was Bitcoin and the volume and the liquidity of it, the market of Bitcoin died. People literally thought Bitcoin died. It was a hell of a couple of years. Bitcoin was unaffected. Like the actual network, fine. Everybody's good. It recovered and we came back from it. But a lot of people had to get through this wall of like, wait, so Bitcoin isn't dead? Like it really did change the perception of where Bitcoin was and what it meant in the world. And that could happen again. I kind of expect that we'll probably go through that again. It will, no matter. Oh, sorry, what?
I was saying we've been through, drug dealers. We've been through Mt. Gox. We've been through
a lot.
It's about time. It's about time we get dictator checked off. We already got Colt on our back. So it's like, let's get the dictator thing in there, and we'll get through that too. And I'm thinking more than anything, right? Like Bitcoin, as far as a finance, like if it's gonna become the world reserve currency, I mean, maybe I'm way off here, but I think I play basketball. So I always think like, okay, people that have changed the game. I always say this, people that changed the game in basketball, like Steph Curry is currently doing, they had to play the game and then they changed the game slowly, or like a Shaquille O'Neal changed the game because just how dominant he was. And I think that's the same thing with Bitcoin is coming in to like traditional finance and it's changing the game, but it has to play the game first. It has to play the bond game. It's got to play. Michael Saylor's got to come in and put it on his balance sheet and say that it's just an asset. It's just this. It's this.
He knows that is bullshit.
Yeah, he knows. Yeah, because it is an asset, right? It's an asset.
He's coming on in a few weeks.
It's an asset.
I'm just saying he was towing the line like crazy on that one.
Yeah, like it's an asset until...
Tell him I know the game he's playing. Just tell him I know. Guy knows.
Yeah. We'll tell him. We all know the game. We all know the game. And it's an asset until the US dollar isn't the world reserve currency anymore, until it truly frays away. And then you have Bitcoin. And then you have all this infrastructure, this like ecosystem of Bitcoin that's already been built and it's being built right now. And so that's kind of how I look at like the bond market. It's like this Bitcoin bond is this first bond that's, that's being backed or whatever by Bitcoin, but it's not going to be the last one. And it's the first iteration of it. And it's going to slowly change the bond market and how we look at bonds. And it's probably going to shrink the bond market in all likelihood, because just like what you're saying, guys, it's all based on credit. And we're going to get back to being based on real hard sound money.
No, I totally agree. And I don't mean to diminish what it means to have a Bitcoin bond from a sovereign, like from a nation state. Like that is a huge deal. Like no matter which way you turn that thing, that's a big fucking deal. And what's funny is that, like, if you look at like the bond market is really where I think Bitcoin is going to, like when we talk about like Bitcoin eating somebody's lunch, I think it's going to obliterate the bond market. We have in the last like 50 or so years, we have an insane bull market in bonds that historically has never existed. Never. The public didn't buy bonds. Like rich companies didn't store their money in bonds. Like if you look at like back when kind of the heart of the gold standard was taking place with Second Bank of the United States, and like we were between central banks. They were like short periods of time before the Federal Reserve really just like kind of stuck us in the nuts and hooked on, and we couldn't get rid of those fucking assholes. But if you look back like towards like the 1850s to the 1900s, the only time like the amount of bonds that like the normal like the public owned was zero. Nobody bought bonds. Like you didn't buy government bonds, you bought gold. The only times that actually went off of zero was during war. Like they would run, like the government would come around and they beg people to buy bonds, like, and it goes up during the Civil War, and then it goes up, it crashes back down to zero. Everybody sells them. Nobody wants to hold that shit. It's just governments that buy each other's bonds and stuff. And then it's flat up until like, early 1900s, and you start to see it tick up. And then World War I happens. Federal Reserve happens. But now we've got this like massive, it's the global reserve is somebody else's credit. That's stupid. It's so stupid. And we have found ourselves in this $10 market that shouldn't actually exist. It doesn't naturally exist. It's due to the lack of a sound money that can actually serve our purposes and be decentralized enough to not be capturable, which is what gold was. It was decentralized creation of money that could not be decentralized, stored in a decentralized way, and therefore the entire market could easily be captured, because all you have to do is capture the storage. And that's what happened with government. This is actually this kind of a there's like a whole chapter on sort of this idea in Seventh Property, actually, Eric Yake's book. Like so when you look at like reintroducing Bitcoin into an inflated and such an absurd market, what you're going to see is like the decatrillions of dollars that are in bonds just flood out. Like once people realize that Bitcoin is money, that it is secure, sound, like base layer money, the only bonds that will be meaningful will be the ones that are backed by Bitcoin. The ones where they say this bond will pay you Bitcoin, because nobody's going to take credit on its face anymore. Like we are literally walking through the age of like, oh yeah, everybody's credit is bullshit. Like that is what we are living through. Nobody's going to come out the other side going like, yeah, give me $2 trillion in your fucking jackass promises. No, no. They're going to like this. The only way out of this is if we find some sort of foundation of value. If we don't have Bitcoin, there's no escape valve on this shit. It's just gonna like implode and eat everybody. It's
remember when
utter mess that we
Christine Lagarde said that out loud?
Yes,
that was one of my favorite moments this year when Christine Lagarde said that something to the effect of
escape valve.
It's an escape valve. Yeah, she said there's an escape valve now, and we can't let people have it. Basically,
there is escape.
No shit.
They will use it.
There's an escape. They'll use it. That's what it is.
Those
Oh
are the
my
scale. Yeah.
god.
Months ago.
Fucking hell.
Max,
Okay, my next meme. I gotta find this video. Somebody find that shit and DM me.
Get in, guys.
Done.
DMs.
I don't know how I missed that.
All right. I know we're
I
getting.
mean, yeah, that's just cat out of the bag. You don't escape from a free and
100.
fair system, right? She fucking knows.
She knows.
Madam.
Yeah.
I know.
Hell no.
I've been saying it forever. Like all the central banks, like they get in their boardrooms. They're like, oh, we're gonna do this to interest rates, and we're gonna do this to fiscal policy, and we're gonna print this much money, and it's gonna have this A, B, and C effect. And the elephant in the room is Bitcoin. They cannot recognize that it exists because it will make every decision that they make meaningless.
That's why it's good. I think that's why it's almost good that it's deemed as an asset, because they think that they're getting all these taxes off of Bitcoiners. But if you're a hodler and you don't ever sell your Bitcoin, they're not getting anything from you. And we're just we can
Unless
wait
they
them
do
out.
a unrealized capital gains tax, which I think
Yeah.
they'll try. I'm worried about, man. I don't mean to like drum up fear, and I hate like even talking about this, but I can't help but I think it. This is what I think is going to happen. I think they're going to nationalize retirements. Like there's no clean way out of this. You know, like financially.
When you
none of that
say
shit
nationalize
exists.
retirements, do you mean they're going to try to make pension funds solvent by sending money into them or something? Is that what you're saying?
I think they're simply going to consolidate them into a government program to quote unquote save everybody, because none of that money is there.
You don't
None
think
of that money actually exists.
You don't think
He's saying-
those pension
he's
funds
saying
are
that-
going to?
He's saying, I think that they're gonna print the money that are missing after they're nationalized.
Right, I get
Essentially.
that, but you don't think the pension funds are going to find Bitcoin before that happens, or at least some of them?
I mean, I certainly hope so, and that's that's kind of the order of events. Is like what actually plays out. Do we get like
They're
a
gonna find-
really hard crisis before, like another wave of this, before Bitcoin starts to kind of latch on to some of the kind of the underbelly of these instruments and institutions, or do they confiscate it out of the sheer like the government, the whole regime and the structure of how government runs is completely unsustainable. Like it has to shift in a rather extraordinary way. And they are going to take extraordinary measures to try to prevent that change from happening. So I'm just always inclined to think that pensions and IRAs and 401ks are at threat. They are in the war zone of, is that still going to be there? And like, so like the second I realized I still had a 401k with an old business with an old a job that I had, I just ripped everything out. Like I'm definitely scared to keep anything but liabilities in the fiat system.
This was during the COVID crash when you found that 401k, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I had already cashed out the other one that I had, but this was one that I had kind of stumbled upon when Bitcoin crashed from 9,000 to 3,000 in like a matter of, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks there or whatever. Fuck me, I've never gone through so many documents looking for money in my life.
Also got that sweet 100K, that the government wouldn't tax you that extra 10% on, right?
Yeah, I got you got I got a tax. I don't care. I'll pay the tax. Just make as long as I get Bitcoin.
Right.
Oh yeah.
All right, we're coming up on our hour here, Sean.
Do y'all have like a hard limit? My God,
Greg has a hard limit.
I've got a hard limit. If you guys want to keep talking, you can.
Hey, you.
I was just gonna say pensions are most likely gonna buy Bitcoin backed bonds because that's what they can get exposure to.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, if like as that market starts to unfold, I can't believe that. And maybe it's that like when it's hard to get consensus in a government. Bureaucracies are bullshit. They're slow and they're messes. So that's probably what we're seeing is the delay in like so many countries like following right behind El Salvador, because El Salvador has like really high like voting consensus in their regime and their setup right now.
Voting consensus.
Whatever the fuck that means, right? But they can get stuff done quickly. I mean, like they went from like proposing a legal tender law to like voting it in like a week or something like that, and then it was instituted in like 3 months, and they had a service that everybody could like. Governments do not move at that speed typically, you know. Like usually it's like, oh, I'm gonna vote something in today, and maybe in 6 years there will be some, after we spend $137 billion on it, there will be a broken ass website that looks like it's from Microsoft Office 1998, and then we'll start to build off from that. After I gave my cousin a cool $1 billion for the HTML work on that. So that's usually how fast things
you really
go.
Feel.
But I think we're going to see a lot of governments follow up on this, you know. And one of the interesting things is that you could, like, a Bitcoin-backed bond could happen quicker than legal tender, than like sometimes even like issuing like legal changes, because it's a financial framework, you know, like you can have your bond backed by anything. So there's some really interesting things of just like being able to create a financial instrument, and then a government start putting a bond, Bitcoin or something on its balance sheet, just as a thing to pay off a loan. El Salvador, we go on one good rally, you know, this thing doesn't crash to $30,000, which I just don't suspect. I mean, I'll be trying to throw as much damn fiat as I can. But if this thing rallies from here, you know, like we get a little bit of sideways and consolidation, and everybody's like, oh my God, I don't think it's actually going to just plummet to zero right now. And it starts to grow again, goes to 70,000, 100,000. El Salvador isn't going to owe shit to IMF or World Bank. They will be one of the first, second, third world countries that's constantly at the whim of the World Bank and like IMF bullshit, like constantly in this cycle of debt to pay off the next debt to just build the thing that they're being told to build. You know, make sure you put up a bunch of solar panels in this spot, and they'll actually be running their own shit. They're going to pay off loans to the cartel of centralized global finance, and just like not be a part of it anymore.
How do you think
one
they're
rally?
One
rally makes that. Sorry.
How will the cartel react? Have you read John Perkins?
Read who? What?
John Perkins.
John Perkins. Yeah, Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Oh yeah. Well, no, actually, I have
That's
not
a
read
good
that
one.
in full. I know sections of that, and that is actually on my list. I think
How
I
have
have.
you not read it? That book is like 30
I
pages
know.
long.
I've got a
Wait,
signed...
is that one only 30 pages?
No,
is that
it's
really that
short. I'm just...
No, it's a bit longer than that.
Okay.
I met him about 10 years ago at an event that Max and Stacey were at as well. And it's a great book, phenomenal book, actually. He was an absolute scumbag. Mm-hmm. Jury's out on whether he still is or not, but he wrote a book saying, look, this is what I did and I feel bad. And it's an outstanding book.
Yeah, it is.
And, the fact of the matter is that I'm just going to say it because a lot of people will be thinking it. This cartel is dirty as hell, and they play dirty, and they don't give 100%. A shit. They don't have any value on human life and democracy. In fact, even though I'm sure we all share very similar thoughts on democracy as a model for governance and what have you, but even that, they don't have any respect for it. How will they respond? And I ask this despite the fact that I have a lot of hope for what's happening in El Salvador, and there's so many damn eyes on it. So many eyes on it. that it would be hard, much harder. You know, they can't pull the same kind of shit that they did on like Salvador Allende and various other leaders that were disposed of when democratic votes didn't go the way that the cartel wanted them to go. But what do you see happening, Guy?
Probably buying Coinbase stocks or something.
Right. So you just think they joined the party? That's how.
That was me. That was yellow.
That way.
Yeah, I know, man.
Not yet. That is not what they'll do to begin with. They will. I mean, just like they are now, they'll issue tons of statements and they'll write these elaborate economic reports about how dangerous El Salvador's situation is, about how risky what they are doing is. They will downgrade their credit to as low as they can send it to discourage people from buying their bonds or being involved in them at all.
That's happened to Sailor. Same thing happened to Sailor when they were buying.
Yep. Yeah. This par for the course is this is a playbook really. And they're going to demand payment immediately of any of the other loans that they have from the IMF or World Bank. They're going to come and be like, well, since you're playing in this risky speculative game, you're going to pay off everything that you owe us immediately. I mean, that's where the situation right now is in what was the country? It wasn't South Africa. I don't know. China just got an airport, like got the only international airport in some country. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
It was in Africa. It was in Africa. I can't remember the country.
It was somewhere in Africa. I can't remember either. But that was basically like they're calling their debts due, right? They're like, pay us. And they're like, oh, we don't have the money right now. And so they give them their international airport. They'll do that. They'll do that to El Salvador. They'll try to choke them off financially. They'll start putting any sort of tariffs or any sort of like attempt to remove their ability to move money around in the in the global financial system, because that's what they've done. That's what they've done forever. Like this is how they've colonized a third of Africa. Yeah, these are the tools they've used, and they're going to keep using that tools. But the beautiful thing, very good at it. Yes, they're very good at it. But the funny thing is that like none of those tools will work if El Salvador is leaning on Bitcoin. You can't choke them off financially. Yeah, people want their Bitcoin. If people are buying their bonds for Bitcoin, they're not gonna give a shit about the downgrade if the Bitcoin is there.
Of the bunnies is saying it was Uganda that had to give up their report. Uganda,
okay, but it's not going to work like they think it is because it's not working in it's not in the same environment that it's been. And so they're going to use all their old tools in all the different ways they know how to use those tools. And it's going to not work instead of work because Bitcoin is there. And so it'll be really, really interesting to see.
Yeah. I'd love to be a fly on the wall when they have that realization. That
they're gonna become a sovereign nation. That's what's really happening. They're truly becoming sovereign.
When they are cut off from the financial system completely, when like any sort of crackdown like really comes down, and then El Salvador is able to move or do some sort of deal with someone for $10 billion, $15 billion because they just sent Bitcoin. Somebody in that boardroom is going to piss their pants because they're going to realize that their capital controls, the fact that they are the center of the financial world no longer matters. They're not the center of the financial world.
The center's moved.
They're a part of it. And the center has moved to a new place. And everybody watching that, the outcome of that, there's going to be so many countries in South America, in Africa, like all over the world who are going to look at that and they're going to see an opportunity. Yeah. For better or for worse, for bad or for good, they're going to see an opportunity. They're going to see that the regime, that the monolith of the modern world is weak.
Yeah.
Bullish.
And it
a
is
real emperor has got no clothes on moment, but not only is the emperor naked, he's also a pedophile and Jeffrey Epstein's flight logs. I was going to Epstein Island at least 17 times.
Oh shit!
I love when you come on.
100%, 100%. And they are all going to take the opportunity. That's the thing. Is that when the focus is on A, B, and C, D through J is going to be like, holy shit. Now I've got an opportunity, and now they're busy spending resources fighting these other people. Now is the time to do it. It's all going to come to a head at the same time. And
the game theory is going to be incredible.
Game theory is going to be crazy. Man, game theory should be the only thing you teach anybody up to the 8th grade.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Fucking amazing. But yeah, it's gonna be a wild ride, man. It's gonna be messy. There's some shit. There is good damn reason to be scared. Fuck, it's gonna be exciting.
It is a phenomenal time that we are living through. It really is. You know, an unprecedented innovation in sound monetary terms, set against a backdrop of history literally replaying itself, right? Early modern history replaying itself in front of our very fucking eyes. We have an absolute ringside seat. We have an opportunity to engage and participate and to change things one way or the other. It is an incredible time to be alive. Scary as fuck, but
as scary as it is, and as easy it is to be hopeless. Everybody knows that picture of everybody heiling Hitler or whatever in the audience, and there's the one dude.
Yeah,
I think we have a lot more of those one dudes.
Yeah, for sure.
I think we have a lot more today than history is used to.
And they're connected.
Yeah. Like I think the degree of hopelessness that we feel while still actually being able to find our community and the people who understand and we could talk to about this. Imagine not having the internet. Imagine being in a neighborhood in Nazi Germany and thinking you're the only motherfucker who thought that. And literally anybody who stands up and says anything different goes to jail. Imagine how fucking alone you would feel. We don't have that problem today. I don't feel alone. Like, it sucks, and I feel hopeless at times. Like, shit's getting really bad, and like, what do we do about it? But I get people DMing me, what do we do about it? And I'm like, oh, there's another one. So, there's something there. There's something there. And then to have this tool to defend ourselves, like, I could delete everything. I could wipe all this shit and walk out of this country and have most of my Bitcoin on the other end of it, and that is just something that's never been possible before in the history of the world. That is remarkable. That is absolutely remarkable. And there's zero chance, that does not change things in a very significant way.
Yeah.
And, it's just time at this point. It's just watching it play.
Yeah. It's funny. I've got a book called Black Hole Focus. I haven't talked about it. I've seen this mentioned on Twitter as well, completely separately, but this is where I first heard it in this book. And it's an experiment that was done with rats. And it's a bit gruesome, so forgive me if there's anyone who's a little bit squeamish, but they did an experiment where they put rats in a bucket of water, but the lid, the height of the water and the height of the lid of the bucket was too high for the rats to be able to get out.
Oh, yeah.
You heard of this? They put the rats in, and if the rat couldn't get out, it would swim around for about 15 minutes before it would give up and drown. I think they'd take the rat out before it died, but they'd pick it out, dry it off, put it back in, and it lasted, I think it was about 270 times longer. It would swim for a couple of days, right, before it gave up. So the first time, when it was a helpless situation, the rats would give up in a fairly short space of time. But once they had the idea of what rescue, or what hope, they had hope, right? And that hope provided them with a fucking superpower to carry on going. And I think that's what Satoshi's given us.
I'm not sure if this is the same experiment, but I've read about essentially the same concept being tested. And it was a large pool that was just deep enough that the rat couldn't touch the bottom. But then underneath the water, they made the water so that you couldn't see it. Like just somewhere in it, they made like a little mound of sand so that they could stand up. And
is this a copy pasta?
This is a copy pasta. And they would swim around. And in the first thing, they would have like that little mound so that the mice or whatever would like find the island, and they would stand up on it. And then they afterward they would put them in one that had no island.
Yeah.
And they would swim for like 3 to 5 times longer.
Yeah.
Than the rats or the mice or whatever that were in the vat that had no island.
Yeah.
Like they would learn to give up.
And
the one who found the island, even for a second, would learn to never stop looking.
Right.
Don't stop.
And
believe it.
You're absolutely right. Like that is Bitcoin. Like even if, God forbid, somehow Bitcoin fails, like that reality does exist, right?
Yeah.
There is some potential that at the end of this, Bitcoin doesn't exist.
No.
Who the fuck wouldn't believe that we could figure out what went wrong?
Yeah.
Yep.
Who would leave? All the people who would leave would be the people who didn't give a shit anyway.
Yeah.
They were just there to make a buck. I'm not going anywhere. My shit's still going to be Bitcoin audible. And we're going to figure out how the fuck it went wrong. And we're going to fix it.
Yeah.
Like, we know it's possible.
With volcanoes.
We know. Even if with fucking volcanoes. Even if it only worked for 12 years. And we're going to figure something out.
And hashing by hand.
We're going to figure that shit out. And, like, that is what that is. Like, the breeding of Bitcoiners, the spreading of the realization that we don't fucking need them. And we can obsolete this shit.
That's exactly it. You know,
who's going to give up on that? Who is going to give up on that?
Yeah.
Absolutely
Nobody.
not. I'm not going anywhere. Fuck that.
Once you realize that, you know, there's always going to be Bitcoiners out there who's going to accept your Bitcoin, and the other way around is true as well. I'll always accept any Bitcoin from anybody else. And that group of people is always growing and growing every day.
Amen.
That's the floor.
I want to make sure that RD has a chance to ask his question before.
Is he alive? Alive?
He's throwing up right now.
Still alive.
Still
alive. Hanging in there, man.
Miracle. Bring it, dude.
Okay, Guy. First of all, thank you for keeping me company most days on the drives and stuff. Yeah. Feel like you're my best mate anyway, so.
Of course.
My question is, if the meme factory did exist, which we all know it doesn't, but if it did, who would you like, who would you retweet, and who would you mute?
Oh, okay. God damn.
It's a tough
All
one.
right, I gotta look at the whole group here. All right.
You can have a block button on there as well if you want.
First, I'm gonna block Greg. First things first.
Perfect.
I'm gonna like. I'm pretty just kind of like out there with my likes. This have to like I would like everybody's stuff, and I would retweet probably Yellow because that man is just a little bit like just the right amount of psycho.
Genius.
You know, like
psycho.
Just the right amount of like not there. You know.
That's so accurate. I'm laughing.
What makes you say that?
What are you talking about?
That's a new one, Guy.
Oh, brilliant.
That would probably be it.
All right, so you blocked me, you retweeted Yellow, and who did you like?
I liked everybody.
Everyone.
That's bullshit.
Artie and
Pick
Big
somebody.
Sean would probably be at the first of the list. They're the ones that I think like I think I see them most. I don't know. See, I see MTC a lot. Like, I don't know. I gotta see, who do I follow? Who do I follow? I feel like
Also, I don't know if you I don't know if you have that idea, but when are you like making voiceover for GPS for the cars?
Yes.
Not yet.
That would be hilarious.
I haven't
man.
done that yet, but I should.
What are you doing voiceover for GPS?
Does
for
anybody have a
Yellow?
GPS anymore? Like for a
It's
fucking
invest.
car?
Yeah, it's built into your mobile.
You gotta do it
Bitcoin
for
wallet.
Google Maps, right? Yeah.
He'll get it done.
We're in Europe. We also don't have strikes, so.
I know. Nah, I'm not gonna say.
Do I follow all y'all? I do follow all y'all, right? Yeah, okay.
You
I'm
probably
trying to figure
follow
out-
Laura
I'm trying to
Huddle
figure
2
out
or
if the
3.
reason
You might
I
not be
see some
following
of
the
y'all
right
more
Labra
than
Huddle.
others is because I don't follow you. Hold on a second. Labra. Oh my
Labra gets
God, you got
deleted weekly.
copycats.
I'm on the 10th account right
No,
now.
they're not
Labra
copycats.
Huddle.
You just get banned a lot.
Oh, okay. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Then maybe I don't follow.
When you tell Steve Hankey to fornicate.
Labra
with
hold
himself.
all caps.
Half of Twitter's server are all Labra accounts.
All right, guys.
There will only
Okay,
be
I think I got
21,
everybody.
so.
I think I got everybody in here. I think we're good.
Do you want to
All right.
leave our audience with any closing thoughts this evening?
Buy Bitcoin, man.
Yeah,
Listen
yeah.
to Bitcoin Audible. That's always good. I guess it's shit. Like we're living through some weird ass times. And the internet has been a special kind of place in all of this because it's in some degrees seems to have accelerated this. The ability to technologically control someone and the fact that this smartphone in my pocket is also tracking me and keeping tabs of who I'm talking to and who's near me on my Wi-Fi network. Like people don't even realize Google has all of that information for like Android phone or whatever. Like every single time there's another Wi-Fi connected device, it pings you and it has a fucking like searchable network for all of the Wi-Fi networks that are pinging you right now. Like it knows where you are at all times. 100%. And even if you cut your Wi-Fi off, you've got like 2 other different like types of networking that are sending out communications. We live in some crazy ass times. But at the same time, these technologies are enabling a weird new era of freedom that hasn't really been present before, that hasn't been possible before. And the idea of being able to lock value behind information, that the information itself is the value, is fundamentally going to change the world. This is the extension of what is happening in the digital age. We're still babies in this new era. We're still barely breaking through whatever the fuck this new phase of stuff is going to look like. But we have a responsibility, and maybe we're realizing how important that responsibility is and how important the decisions we make leading up to these situations, how much they really do matter. Because we've made bad decisions. We've done nothing but make compromises, and now we're watching the payoff. We're watching the debt come due of those compromises. We have 100% in our possibility, like in our potential, to choose what will keep us protected in a way that's never been possible before and potentially indefinitely into the future, that could truly change the foundation of all of the consequences that have led us to where we are. And we could evade this psychotic surveillance state future. We could literally just kind of like walk around it like, oh shit, that would have been a bad idea. Let me just turn around this fucking intersection and not hit this motherfucking car. We could actually do that. But we actually have to learn, use the tools, share that shit, and be convicted. We have to know that what we're doing is the right choice, and we have to not be afraid to tell our fucking neighbor. And that just the sheer possibility, isn't it worth the risk? Like what the consequence, like look what could be if we do nothing. And look what could be if we just grab the tools that are at our disposal. And put your damn boundaries up. Say no when you mean no. And our future's probably, we've actually got the tools to protect that no, to protect that decision. And we could end up in a much better world. We really could. It's going to take a lot of fucking work and it's going to hurt. But hey, what doesn't? You know?
You're
here.
So.
Fire.
That's that.
Thank you, guy.
Bye, big.
Appreciate your time, guy. Thank you.
Thanks for coming, man.
All right.
Yeah. Good ass.
Great,
time.
Great.
Thanks, man.
Good night, guys.
All right, man.
Thanks.
Later, guys.